Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to This Week in Bitcoin. Today is March the 19th. 2021. Strong hand, long-term thinking. Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. Unconfiscatable. Have a backbone. Be a unique beast, like this shirt says at Coinbase.com. One day closer to all-time high. Who knows? It seems to happen on Saturdays a lot, these all-time highs. So tomorrow's Saturday. I guess get ready for it, but don't FOMO on alts. Buying over crying. Personal responsibility is the new counterculture. I am offended by selling. Best guest in this space. Hello, my elite friends. Welcome to the This Week in Bitcoin show. Oh, yeah, we're living in this 5-digit realm. And we got some great guests here today because I bring you the best guests in the space every freaking Friday. First of all, Brian Jacotou makes his return. Juan Galt makes his long-awaited return. He's been stranded in the woods before, lost in the mountains, but we got him here today. And now, the great Jonathan Hamill will make his debut. I keep getting him confused with former Orioles pitcher Jason Hamill, but it's Jonathan Hamill. He's here, baby. Okay, dudes. So we'll start off with Jonathan Hamill because we're all curious about your Canadian perspective on what the heck is going on in the Bitcoin space. And I don't like to put anyone on a pedestal here, okay? But the Deutsche Bank people, everyone worries about these banks all the time. They think the banks control the whole world, blah, 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 blah. Well, if you think that Deutsche Bank has come out with a report, Bitcoin is too important to ignore now. Well, duh! Of course it's too important to ignore. But you've got an official report to tell us, so now maybe everyone will wake up. Jonathan, tell us about what your thoughts are on this and what's it all mean.
Yeah, it's funny because compared to, let's say, the last cycle, so 2017, 2018, all the reports from investment banks were all equally bad. And now there's two kinds. There is like very, very good reports out there. I'm thinking about like the Citibank report. I don't know if you read it a couple of weeks ago, which was very, very good. And there is the very shitty takes who are still out there sometimes. So I think the Deutsche Bank report is in the first category. It's interesting. I'm not sure of the number they're using, but they said that the Bitcoin just flipped yen, so it's the third biggest currency out there now by value in circulation. So that's interesting. It's definitely coming. It's one of the major banks. So Deutsche, it definitely lost a lot of steam in the last, let's say, 10 years, but it's still an important institution. It's one of the biggest German banks. So it's interesting to see the perspective from capital markets and banks. It's definitely getting steam, getting more serious in the space for sure. It's still a lot of the major players are still shy of having like a clear opinion on Bitcoin. What we saw, like Bank of America, who had a pretty shitty take this week, but it's important. I think we've crossed another threshold into like mainstream adoption.
All right, now talking about crossing that another major threshold. All these banks that you just mentioned, Morgan Stanley, Deutsche Bank, Bank of America, back in the day, which wasn't that long ago, they all had negative things to say about Bitcoin. Now, to me, it was expected that they would change their mind eventually. But for some people, it is a tremendous victory for them personally because they put so much, they put these guys on pedestals and everything. So I think it is, if we look back to 2016 when they were ragging on Bitcoin, this is the complete opposite. You also mentioned, though, that it's flipped the yen, apparently. I don't know what numbers they're using either. But here's the thing. It's going to flip them all eventually. I mean, basically. All right. So it's just a matter of time. It's a matter of time before the countries start buying it up also. So with all of this in mind, with the overall picture that, yeah, we can't ignore Bitcoin. And I think everyone on this panel can agree with that. Someone that is clearly not ignoring Bitcoin, that is a bank, is Morgan Stanley, which this week, Morgan Stanley becomes the first big US bank to offer its wealthy clients access to Bitcoin funds. So we'll stick with you here, Jonathan. What was your take on that?
Well, it's not a surprise for me. It's firstly, it's directed to their wealthy clients, so probably private banking. So it's been the story for the last, let's say, 18 months. It's funny because we always used to say we're going to bank the unbanked, and we thought that mainstream adoption of the unbanked would be one of the major catalysts of Bitcoin growth. But I think in the last 18 months, it's been mostly a wealthy people story, like people from I would not say maybe the 1%, but people having access to private banking. It's usually the department in banks that are the most flexible. So they're able to sell products to their clients that are not accessible to the retail investors. And it's pretty funny because here in Canada, I think it's the same in the US, most of the banks were actively banning or restricting retail user from buying Bitcoin or buying Bitcoin related stuff by just basically blocking wire transfer or e-transfer, which is kind of like some kind of a PayPal payments here in Canada between banks, while the private banking departments were actively caught not only selling Bitcoin but investing in Bitcoin business. They were actively looking into Bitcoin funds as well. So there's really two worlds out there: the world for the wealthy people, where they can access like the cutting edge product, if not only if it's pure Bitcoin, like native Bitcoin buying and selling, but they can also access a Bitcoin-related financial product that the mainstream retail investor couldn't access. But now it's interesting because we have the ETF here in Canada that anybody can access. But before that, it was a accredited investor story mostly.
You know, we should talk more about that ETF later on in the show. I'm sure you have some thoughts on that. I got to write that down to bring that up with you. What was that? What's it called? The PayPal-like thing in Canada called? I remember when I was in Canada, somebody wanted me to send them money that way. What's it called?
Yeah, it's we have a system called Interac. Interac is managed by a corporation of all the banks together. So it's e-transfer. It's some kind of bank-to-bank settlement network. It works pretty well, to be honest, but it's really susceptible to censorship, and it's getting pretty bad. And I think it's gonna fit well into our central bank digital currency discussion later. But they have a pretty good control over that network. Yeah.
But it's like a regular guy like you can send money to another person through that system, basically, right?
Yeah, the limit is $3,000 per day, and the weekly limit is $10,000, I think, something like that.
Yeah, it's funny. When I was in Vancouver in 2014, I found a place to stay over Craigslist. I got a great deal, and the woman wanted me to send her money that way. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but I can send you Bitcoin. She's like, I don't know what that is. Ouch! Too bad for her. It would have been better to send her Bitcoin that way. And also, before we move on to Brian here, I got to say, Jonathan, the people in the chat are going to ask, what is that? There's a sickle hammer book on your bookshelf. What is that thing?
Yeah, this is. Let me show you. There is a. This is the manifesto of the Communist Party I bought at the original place of the first Communist Party Congress in Shanghai, and it's quite funny. So it's mostly a souvenir I bought in Shanghai, and I saw at that place. I was actually at the FinTech conference. I think it was in 2016. And what's funny, because we after the day after we visited this museum, which is located like in a very nice because I think the English quarter of Shanghai, and so you visit the museum. At the end, there's a boutique shop where you can buy souvenir. And I went with my friend, and he said like one of the funniest thing ever. So you look at the clerk, and he said he was buying, I think, a shirt or something like that. And he looked at him and he said, "Do you take American Express?" It was like there was like a silence at the Communist Museum. It was just perfect.
Well, I just wanted to show everyone that this dude here Jonathan is not a communist or anything like that. You can
No,
all
no,
these
no.
dudes are linked to below, but I just wanted to put that out there before people start making accusations or
Yeah,
say
yeah, yeah.
insanity.
That's a souvenir.
Insanity. He's the complete opposite. Okay, so there. Follow all these guys below. We'll get back on topic here. And yeah, when that woman in Vancouver, her place, I just ended up paying her Canadian cash because she wouldn't take Bitcoin. I didn't have her electronic system. It's very unfortunate she didn't take Bitcoin, but there's a lot of stories like that for people. It's very fortunate that I still have my Bitcoin that I had back in 2014. All right, Brian, your take on Morgan Stanley and on the Deutsche Bank report.
Just want to say yes. I'm a non-communist as well. I got Adam Smith right here, Wealth of Nations. So definitely not. That's a cool book though. I have not read it, but it looks pretty interesting that y'all have. What was it called again, Jonathan? The Manifesto for the Communist Party in Shanghai.
Well, it's the Manifesto of the Communist Party, but the Chinese version, yeah.
Okay.
Oh wow.
From Marx, yeah.
So anyway, Morgan Stanley coming in. Morgan Stanley is really smart for starting to offer these products as they are. I know we're going to get into CBDCs a little later, but my thinking on the overall effect of CBDCs with respect to banks is that banks are going to become a lot less necessary once you can have a wallet with your Fed coin directly linked to the Federal Reserve or whatever central bank they're going to use for these CBDCs. So Morgan Stanley, in order to remain relevant, needs Bitcoin. Banks need Bitcoin to remain relevant into the future going forward. Otherwise, they essentially exist at the mercy or at the whim of the federal government, because they're really going to become a lot less necessary when you have personal bank accounts at the Fed, when you have loans being done directly with the Fed. And who needs FDIC when you have an account with the Fed? So Morgan Stanley getting into this when they are seeing the potential for Bitcoin to offer an avenue for it to maintain relevance going forward, I think is really smart. They'll be able to get interest. People will, not everybody likes to keep their keys, so people will deposit at Morgan Stanley Bitcoin. Probably Bitcoin can lend that out. They can earn interest on it and maintain their banking style existence into the future. I don't see that happening as much with banks that don't custody Bitcoin going forward, because there's less of a need for them to even be there in the first place.
All right. Now, one of the things that goes along with this Morgan Stanley announcement, we've got someone out here at the NYDIG in an interview said the Morgan Stanley announcement was only the first of a drumbeat of major announcements in the institutional Bitcoin space. Okay, so I don't exactly know what's coming next. Brian, do you have any theories on that?
I do. I think that's absolutely right. I think businesses are going to start to come in a really big way, because I don't know if any of y'all watched Michael Saylor's Bitcoin for Corporations conference, but they had the NYDIG head. Was it Ross or Russell? I think it's Ross. They had the NYDIG head though on, and he spoke for an hour. It was a heck of a podcast, or a little breakout. But he said basically he gave a hint at what the institutional interest is for his business alone, and it was something like from $1 billion of potential assets to 25 billion by the end of this year. I mean, that's a 25x return or a 25x increase, and that was just at that time, and it may have been more than that. Honestly, I can't really remember off the top of my head, but he has telegraphed to the community essentially that these corporations are coming in, and they're asking for his advice, and he's giving it to him. And guys like Saylor are able to educate these businesses to get this stuff on their balance sheet so they can protect that downside risk with having a large cash balance or everything done in dollars. And it just makes sense to put 5% in. And if you're Apple and you put 5% in, that's a massive allocation for the Bitcoin ecosystem, considering we're at a $1 trillion market cap right now. So yeah, it's definitely going to continue on going forward, because there's really no alternative. I mean, the alternative is to sort of languish with the dollar and watch it get deflated away by passing political fancy and cultural fancy, and you're really at the mercy of the United States government and political sentiment in this country in a way that you're not if you have at least some Bitcoin on your balance sheet. So it makes perfect sense for why businesses are going to come in. I think they're going to come in more.
Yeah, To me, it's obvious that we're going to have all sorts of corporations and large entities come in, but it's I don't know. This statement made it seem like it was like a drumbeat of major announcements, like there was going to be some like tremendous banks or something like that. I don't know. Maybe they're just getting everyone's hopes up. For me, it's all expected. That's why I got in a long time ago, because I knew eventually this day would come. But I do wonder if there's some specific big news this guy is alluding to that's coming up in the next few weeks. I hope so. I mean, oh yeah, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I was going to just say, I saw that Twitter did a large convertible note debt sale. I think it was over $1 billion, and it's sort of in the same fashion that Michael Saylor did. So I'm not saying that's what that is, but like a big name like that doing that, and I believe Square might double down again as well. So getting these large, like something like Twitter, that's a household name. Square is to a degree, I think, but Twitter is really like a household name. So getting them to buy, $1.52 billion worth of Bitcoin is in my opinion, that's a quote unquote massive announcement or a big announcement as far as normie land 80%ers go.
Yeah, well, it doesn't beat Tesla though. So for me, when I read that thing, the guy's making me think there's going to be a bigger than Tesla announcement. Who knows? Juan Galt, you there, baby? Oh, come on, Juan Galt. Everyone's been looking forward to your return so much. There we go. There's Juan. Unmute yourself. You are.
All right. Is it my turn?
Yeah, it's your turn. It's your turn to talk.
All right, great. I'll see if I get enough data to get a few words. So, I mean, I think it's really interesting what you guys are talking about. You're all very much, clearly more informed, interested in. It's probably relevant. Is the on-chain volume and the on-chain activity. Like it seems like Bitcoin is exiting exchanges, not entering at like the last bull market, and that suggests, I think, a maturity in the market that we didn't see last time. So that's a big deal. Also, the 1% are getting in, and Bitcoin, like the Reaper, is knocking on the banks one door at a time, and it's just a matter of time until they knock them all down. Also, the fact that the Fed can now open accounts for civilians. I mean, the internet is disintermediating. It's getting banks out of the business. This is huge. We're at the cusp of a revolution, guys. Hopefully that got through.
Yes, it all got through at the very start, but it got through. Good. Are you going to be you're in a car right now, right? You're traveling. Everyone's wondering where you are. All right, so let's get back on track here. The 1% are coming in. The 1% are already here. Wink, wink. Okay, so now let's get to the central bank digital currency stuff here. And Brian, you wanted to talk about this some, but I wanted to bring up some specific articles that have thrusted central bank digital currencies back into the news here. And that is the Fed chairman said CBDCs should exist alongside cash. I don't believe that for a second. These countries that are interested in central bank digital currencies, you think when China has a central bank digital currency fully operational, because it's not fully operational now. Someone the other day tried to tell me, well, China's got a CBDC. No, they're experimenting with it now. It's not fully operational. But when that thing's fully operational, you think the Chinese citizens are going to be allowed to have freaking cash still? No, they're going to be totally monitored by the thing. So I don't agree with that. And also, we've got an announcement out. Some European MP says we must not let Zuckerberg become a central bank. The European Central Bank may soon be pushed to regulate cryptocurrencies more. Concern over Facebook's DM is part of the reason. So they don't want to have I think they're basically admitting that if a private entity has its own central bank digital currency, its own digital currency, it will be better than their central bank digital currency. But Brian, and of course, the biggest thing to remember here is that these things, and there was a tweet out there, and Brian retweeted it actually, from a morbidly obese guy in Europe, that part of their financial, some Spanish dude. talking about how Bitcoin, or not how Bitcoin, they can track you with the central bank digital currency. That's something to remember. That's why they want this. It is just an amazing way to track people, to turn them off, to censor them. It's going to be an amazing tool that 80%ers are going to opt into, because you don't have to have a central bank digital. You don't have to have it. You can be in Bitcoin still. But no, I seriously don't. I don't think it's going to exist alongside cash at all. But hey, what's your take on this, Brian?
So I agree. I don't think it's going to exist along cash at all. I don't remember who it was, if it was Reagan or somebody, who said that there's nothing as permanent, or nothing so permanent as a temporary government program. And if you look at 1971, they left the gold standard, and that was a temporary move by Richard Nixon, saying, we're going to go back. We need to just go off to fund some things. Never went back, obviously. So of course they're going to come out and say, oh yeah, cash can stay with CBDCs. We're not going to disrupt cash. We're just going to introduce CBDCs. And then, of course, a couple years later, they're going to, well, we don't really need cash anymore. CBDCs are perfect. And so then they'll just remove it from the system. So, and it'll be just one of those things people have as a souvenir. So yeah, I do not believe for a second that it will exist. I mean, maybe for a few years it'll exist alongside cash, but that's not the end game. The end game is removal of cash from the system. So that's my take on that. The other thing that you mentioned was the large man who was talking about CBDCs. I think he's the I don't know what it's the CEO or the head of the Bank for International Settlements over in Europe there. And they're not even attempting to tell you that they're not going to track you. They're actively telling you they're going to track you and be able to nudge your behavior economically. So what he said basically was, CBDCs give us the ability to regulate money, essentially, and the technology to enforce it. And so when they say they're going to regulate your money, they mean they're going to regulate, if they're creating it, they're going to regulate your spending. So I can foresee a situation where you get, stimulus checks become more and more commonplace, and they're already talking 2,000 a month, whatever. So they start becoming more and more commonplace. So people start relying on them more and more. Then as they start being distributed as a form of CBDCs, once they get that going, the big thing about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin is it's programmable money. So you can, as a CBDC distributor, I would imagine, I'm not a technologist, but I know that we have lots of ability to program this money through a number of different ways. And one of those ways can be where you can only, if you're going to give us, say there's a lagging area of the economy and they want to stimulate that area of the economy, they'll give you a stimulus check, but provided that you only use it in this area of the economy. Otherwise, after a year or 6 months, it disappears from your wallet. And so they'll be able to nudge your behavior in a way that makes it look like they're giving you a gift, but they're actually legitimately controlling your behavior in the marketplace to a minute degree. They'll be able to, nudge the grocery stores one week and nudge farming one week and nudge automotive one week. And so, I mean, that is a degree of control that I think Karl Marx would have dreamt, would have salivated over. And so that's what I see happening. So of course they're going to get rid of cash, and of course they're going to make you use that. And so that's why Bitcoin is so important. That's what I said in the tweet. It was, I don't even care if you don't like Bitcoin. You may find that you need it because that will be money that they can't mess with. That's the whole reason for it. So it's not only is it confiscation resistant, it's censorship resistant. And censorship means, not just stopping your behavior, but also motivating it to a degree without your consent.
Pound that freaking like button for that explanation there. I actually linked to the Morbidly Obese guy's tweet that you retweeted. I added that. And I really haven't heard that brought up before. The nudge that they can do to certain parts of the economy, to the essential, whatever they deem essential businesses, because we're now living in a world where some businesses are essential. I mean, it's fascism. It's picking winners. It's economic fascism when you deem some essential, some sort of essential. So that central bank digital currencies can definitely prolong that situation and make it even worse if you're deemed unessential. And they also, it's an easy way to do the negative interest rates too, the central bank digital currencies. Jonathan, I think Canada is closer to actually implementing these central bank digital currencies than we are in the United States. I'm not sure about that, but what's your take? You wanted to say some things about central bank digital currencies.
Yeah, this is funny. I agree with pretty much everything Brian said, and especially what you said just in a couple seconds ago. It's definitely a tool to implement a negative interest rate at the currency level, without the cash being held at in commercial banks account. Canada's been the Bank of Canada has been experiencing with central bank digital currency for better part, I think, of the last 3 years. They did a partnership with, I don't know if you remember, R3. They did some kind of a blockchain experiment with debt settlement and cash. They at some point they kind of backpedal and say, no, it's not really in our plans to implement digital currency. Same stance as the Fed for much better of like also the last 3 years. They denied for so long that it was not in their plans, but apparently the pandemic changed everything. So they kind of get into the bandwagon of the central bank digital currency for probably a lot of reason, a lot of political reason, monetary policies as well. I think at the end of the day, the playbook here is definitely political. Brian, you explained it well. You just have to look at what China is doing with what they call the China social credit score. It's frightening what's happening there. You can they want you to behave in some kind of way. So if you jaywalk in some part of the city, you're not only gonna have your face exposed on a billboard, which is like pretty dystopian, but you will lose some kind of social points. And I think it's part of a. If you look at if you see Black Mirror on Netflix, I think it's one of the episodes is like you have some kind of social score, and if you lose score, you're banned for doing things. This is what's happening in China right now. If your score is not high enough, you cannot buy high-speed train. You're gonna have to buy tickets for the shitty train to go to the other city. It's gonna take hours instead of let's say 35 minutes. So it's being implemented as of we're speaking now. It's not a conspiracy theory. Look at the central bankers. Look at the cronies like let's say the Larry Fink of the world, of BlackRock. These guys are top down. They like control. So the central bank digital currency is one tool in their policy box they want to implement, and to me, it's crystal clear. It's not if, it's when, and they really want to get rid of cash. That's a fact. They want to get rid of cash. The pandemic was a big boost in getting rid of cash because of sanitary reason, but it's a big boost in that it's a one-way street. I agree. Central bank digital currency is not going to coexist with cash. It's either one or the other.
All right. I wanted to point out there's so many people out there that are worried about what the government is going to do to Bitcoin, the regulations and this, that. They haven't even launched their central bank digital currencies yet. That's the easiest thing to do. And I think that'll satisfy them for quite some time. It'll gain a lot of control over the population. And most people won't. It'll be easier to use than Bitcoin. So that tool in their tool, if you're worried about the government's attacking cryptocurrency, they haven't even used their central bank digital currency tool yet. No major country has totally implemented anything close to it yet. So it'll be interesting to see it happen. And I will stick with my Bitcoin. All right. So let's go. Juan, your take on central bank digital currencies. If Juan is in the house, hang on. Is Juan even? Yeah. I mean, I see he's sort of there.
So he's still on mute.
Yeah, you're muted, Juan. If you're trying to talk, the world wants to hear you. All right. Maybe we're gonna have to save Juan for a second. Since we got Jonathan talking, give us this Canadian ETFs. We're very curious in America about them. Apparently, some Americans have found ways to buy it. How's that going with the Bitcoin ETFs up there?
Yeah, there's a couple of one that's been launched so far, but the first one was launched, I think, was it early March? So far, I think it reached $1 billion in market cap in the record time, which is pretty big for a Canadian ETF. You're right; it's difficult for most retail investors in the US to buy on Canadian market. But most of the institutions are probably able to buy it. But this is by far the impact on the Bitcoin market is going to be much bigger if there's a mainstream Bitcoin ETF in the US market for sure. But yeah, the ticker is BTCC, I think. Let me check. I think it's that. So so far it's gaining a lot of traction. It seems like it's tracking Bitcoin price pretty closely. Premium is not that high. So far I think it's a good experiment.
Awesome. Do you think it'll put pressure to get the United States to finally approve one? It looks like we're getting closer here in the United States.
Yeah, I think they commented on that not later than yesterday that they kind of dig themselves in a hole there by not accepting a Bitcoin ETF. So people are rushing to some kind of like quasi Bitcoin ETF, like MicroStrategy. So people are rushing to have Bitcoin exposure, and this is something the retail investor and the institutional investor are looking actively to have financial exposure to Bitcoin. So I don't think they have a choice right there. They have to approve it. I think probably VanEck is going to be the first one. They've been at it for quite a while. I think they're quite I think they have a small advance there. So probably I think before the end of Q2 this year, we're going to see a Bitcoin ETF.
Whoa! Pound that like button if it's that fast. I'm not holding my breath. that would be big news. That would be huge news. But it is amazing that Canada is ahead of the United States on this one thing in terms of approving ETFs. Mostly now they're behind on everything. You know, they're restricting everybody's movement up there. Oh, we won't get into that part. We won't get into restrictions of movements and such. All right, now let's Juan Galt, can you hear us? Because I see you're trying to get on there. All right, let's since we're all curious about what Juan Galt has to say about central bank digital currencies. But while we're wondering about that, we'll move to another topic here. One of my favorite topics, and it's a controversial one. Coinbase made another announcement this week that gets them basically they're one step closer to going public here. And it's going to be huge news, big for cryptocurrency, big for Bitcoin. The date has not been announced yet. Obviously, when we hear that date, we'll shout it out to you, no doubt. But I wanted to get Brian your latest take. Oh well, yeah, they Coinbase to float around 115 million shares in a Nasdaq listing. All right, so it's going to be on the Nasdaq, obviously. Right now, no official listing date has been given. And one thing to take into account, Coinbase is just the first. Kraken has said that they want to go public in 2022. So what's going on with that, Brian?
Well, I mean, I actually mentioned this when I was pitching the idea for a Bitcoin practice group to my firm. I mentioned Coinbase because they are one of the few tech companies in a long time who is about to go to market and go public with profits already in hand before they actually and a cash flow that's really robust before they actually go public. It's very rare in the tech space. Usually it's let's go public and then everyone buys in and then we'll figure out how to monetize this thing. So Coinbase is doing, I think it's striking while the iron's hot. It was going to be the first it's going to be the first type of Bitcoin exchange to go public. So they're going to get a lot of first mover advantages, and who knows how big this gets. Maybe a large bank like a Morgan Stanley, sort of forward thinking, wraps them up. Buys a bunch of shares, however gets controlling interest, and then wraps them in a bank charter. So then they don't even have to worry about getting that. All that going through all that, and then suddenly you've got Morgan Stanley, the Bitcoin bank, with Coinbase as its Bitcoin arm. And there's a lot of really interesting options that will come from that. And then of course, just your average investor who is like, Bitcoin's really interesting, but I don't want to hold my keys. I don't want to go through all the trouble of buying it. Of course, they get exposure that way. So it's a very interesting time. I'm curious to see what the fanfare, if any, is like. I think there will be fanfare, and I think because their model is very profitable, I think they're going to have a very successful public offering.
Yes, I agree with everything you said there. And, well, you bring up Morgan Stanley wrapping them all up, buying the controlling interest. What that makes me think of is one of these banks, one of these days, is going to buy up a big private crypto organization of some sort that just makes it easier for them to become a Bitcoin bank. That seems a little harder to do to buy up one that's already public. But what do I know? I don't know what's easier to buy up
But
one that's
yeah,
public.
I think you're right.
All right, but still, something like that is quite possible. Also, we'll go to Jonathan here. What's your take on Coinbase and other companies going public, Kraken, let's say, in the future?
Yeah, it was pretty interesting to see the numbers in the S1 filings for Coinbase. I think that they're going to do not sure, a direct. Is it a direct listing? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So that's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be fairly successful. I think it's going to be a good benchmark for the it's a cryptocurrency pure play in on the stock market. Pretty much like the miners, which are pretty successful since the beginning of the year, but it's going to be a magnitude order of number like much bigger. Like we're talking like 100 billions, north of 100 billions, which is pretty big. We saw you mentioned previously the Morgan Stanley potentially acquiring a stake in Bitum in the South Korea. So they're positioning themselves, which is funny because 2-3 years ago I was doing a lot of business with financial groups, banks, investment banks, and one of the things they all wanted to do blockchain. Everybody wanted to do blockchain. Let's do blockchain, or let's bring the blockchain into banks. And I said, look, you're going way too far. I mean, you just have to set up like some kind of Bitcoin practice. That's at the end of the day, your wealthy clients will want to buy Bitcoin. Some business maybe wants to transact in Bitcoin and maybe foreign markets. So you have to get started to build some kind of Bitcoin practice. And we were basically laughed out of their office all the times. And now they're rushing to not only build practices, but also like buying active stakes in Bitcoin businesses. And I never thought it would happen this quickly, to be honest. I was seeing this cycle like probably like farther in the decade, like maybe 2024, 2025. It happened much quicker than I thought, to be honest.
All right. We're loving life, baby. I love speeding up the process here. Now, I want to remind everyone in the chat, you can ask questions. You can type in BitcoinMeister. You could do a super chat. Just get my attention. We got two freaking awesome guests here that can answer all sorts of questions. And speaking about answering questions, well, Jonathan and I are both on the Coinbase Connect site where you can sign up for private meetings with us, actually. Coinbase.com/connect. Just felt like bringing that up since we're both involved. Coinbase, they are in motion, dude. They are so in motion. The dudes over there, John and everybody. And I do want to say there is one question out there. First of all, Juan he's got bad internet. Okay, Juan. It's funny. Juan seems to always have bad internet, and he specifically wanted to be on this show today. So I'll just give him his plug right now. But who knows if he'll ever be on the show again? But after all this nonsense, but there's a conference in Miami that's coming up in April. He wanted to plug it. It's like the 21st and 23rd. It's linked to below. It's linked to below. If it's not the big one that I'm going to be at in June, but he wanted a plug for it. So Juan is gone now, but that's what Juan would have plugged was this conference. Anyway, so the question from the audience is. What do we got? The question for it's a question I get asked often, and dude, I am not my brother's keeper here. That's the major answer I'm going to give you. Rafterman, I know you are a good guy, okay? You're asking me a question quite a few people have asked before, and you really are pedestaling this guy if you're still wondering where he is. Here's the question, everyone, and I've mentioned this before to not ask me this question. And again, Rafterman, perhaps you haven't heard me say, don't ask me this question because I've answered it many times, and I think it's the question is, what has happened to Trace Mayer? If anyone knows. Now, we don't know what happened to him. He's a billionaire. Why do you care? I mean, do you need him to tell you everything's okay in Bitcoin land and tuck you into your Bitcoin bed at night? I mean, that's what it seems like. And you're a good guy, Rafterman. But these people, there's so many people that need to know where Trace Mayer is. And they ask me where Trace Mayer is. And I've said, I don't know where he is. I know he's incredibly wealthy and he doesn't need to be here. He doesn't need to talk to anyone. And you really shouldn't worry about the guy, for God's sakes. He could be helping, he was helping Caitlin Long behind the scenes in Wyoming at one point. I remember it wasn't behind the scenes. He's a genius lawyer. Who knows what he's doing, where he's doing it. But guys, he's gone. And perhaps he'll come back one day. You don't need him. If you need him to be around, to be confident in Bitcoin, you are going to lose your Bitcoin. You are a weak hand if you need Trace Mayer, period. So I'm bringing you the best guests in the freaking space, people that you maybe haven't seen before. Like, I want people to expand their mind here. I go out of my way to bring not the biggest names in the world. I brought you Trace Mayer many a time, okay? I brought you all sorts of big names many a time. I'm bringing you people that are up and coming, people that aren't preaching the same thing over and over again, so you can expand your mind here. And I get asked, I get asked about Trace. I get asked about Andreas. Dude, there's more to Bitcoin. There's more to cryptocurrency than your idols, okay? Stop worshiping these idols. It's not good. It's not good. So you put me on a little rant out there, but R. Rafterman, perhaps you haven't heard me before. You are a good dude. I know you're good. I don't mean to, attack you or anything. I'm not attacking you, but I'm just saying people come and go. Bitcoin is much more than one person. It's a bunch of really interesting, unique beasts. So if you want Trace Mayer, don't come to this channel, okay? Because he's not coming back. If you want the best freaking guest in the space, if you want different stories, unique stories, different stuff that you're not going to hear in the mainstream, you come here. But guess what? Most people don't want that. They want girls that are half naked, or, the big names or whatever, to draw fancy sets and graphics. That's what most people want. And good luck to them, because they're going to lose their freaking Bitcoin. They want to know what the next Bitcoin is. That's their main question. Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. All right. So tying it all together in there with impulsive people who need people to worship, who need to know what the next hot thing is, who need fancy sets and graphics to just stare at, or fancy hair to stare at. Let's talk about NFTs, because that seems to be something that goes with this type of mentality, this mindless mentality of worshiping and what's the next Bitcoin. So you guys have been hearing about this NFT stuff, no doubt. What is your take on it, Brian?
Oh, NFTs. So I understand that they're making people money. I mean, it's just ironic to me that one of the main criticisms of Bitcoin early on was, oh, you guys are a bubble. It's like tulips, or it's like Beanie Babies, or collectibles. And then Ethereum and these other platforms go and say, yeah, we're trying to make essentially Beanie Babies, because that's what NFTs are. They're taking a non-scarce asset, like a digitally produced piece of art. They're assigning what is effectively a hash or a serial number to that non-scarce asset. Now that hash or serial number, because it's on a blockchain that's far less robust than Bitcoin's blockchain, but it's the serial number scarce, but the art itself is not. So they make the comparison to original Mona Lisa versus fake and copies of Mona Lisa. And I get that. I understand that. However, I do not see the analogy. Maybe I'm missing something. But when you have a JPEG file and you assign a scarce serial number to it, you haven't suddenly made the JPEG file scarce. And now when you have a scarce piece of art, it's a scarce piece of art, and it starts out scarce, and everything else becomes non-scarce. All the copies do. So I don't see I see the allure, because we're in a sloshy market right now with tons of cash floating around, and Bitcoin's maybe less sexy than an NFT, same way it was less sexy than ICOs. But I think the ultimate fate will be the same, because all it takes is an artist to say, actually, I'm doing the same piece of art on Tron's blockchain now instead of Ethereum's, and boom, it's less scarce. And then he goes, and actually, I'm issuing a new serial number that I think is the original. I mean, there's all these different ways that this thing can be muddled, and so I think that's partially why Elon Musk was making the NFT of the NFT, and then he decided not to sell it because he was like, man, I'm just like just scamming people here. Like, I mean, I'm just taking advantage of people, and I shouldn't be doing that as the world's richest man. So I think that's why he backed off on that.
I do want to say the serial number analogy is correct. We've got Nick Carter's got an article linked to below that talks about the serial number thing. Jonathan, what is your take on the NFTs?
Yeah, very similar to Brian. To be honest, I didn't follow as closely as I should. I didn't thought it would get that big, to be honest, but it's very similar to me that it's the 2021 equivalent of the 2017 2018 ICO. It's bringing a lot of attention to people are starting to be probably thinking, oh, we finally found a way to use the blockchain. Like, it's always this same bullshit coming over and over again. But the problem is still the same, is if you're putting some kind of assets on a blockchain that's probably not as safe as it should be. So to me, like, the only blockchain that should be called blockchain is the Bitcoin blockchain, because the only one is decentralized enough, is the only one that you cannot coerce politically to have some kind of forks of change or changes. So in itself, there's huge technical implication of saying that these assets are truly scarce or are replicable. This is one. The other one is obviously it's happening because we're at all-time high. So people are not only Bitcoin rich but altcoin rich, and they're able to. Most of the big buyers of these stuff are Bitcoin holders or altcoin holders, like this guy's the Justin Tron guys. I think he bid on the one of the big art piece. So this is mostly insider stuff. Like, it's not like outsiders coming and bidding 60 million for these artworks. So it's to me, it's we're seeing the 2017 2018 ICO bubble again. It's gonna crash at some point. But this is, but I'm not paying attention that much, to be honest.
I guess it is very reminiscent of it, definitely, the 2017 ICO bubble. And I think something good came out of that, and something good will probably come out of this. It could change the way people think of modern art. I think so. I encourage the people to keep on doing what they're doing, keep on experimenting with it. But regular noobs, I would not advise them to touch that stuff. And it is bragging rights for the rich right now. It seems like some of these high prices they're paying, which is what art is kind of all about anyway. So we'll see how long the $69 million prices will last. I wouldn't hold my breath on that. But we'll see. I just keep seeing the articles every day, every week, so I got to keep bringing it up every week. It's in the news. It's something we deal with. It could be a way. There will be newbies that their first taste of cryptocurrency will be maybe making NFTs or hearing about NFTs. So it's a way to on ramp some type of newbies, I think. So we'll see. We'll see how it develops. We'll definitely see how it develops. Okay, we do have a question here, and what a question it is. Human from Earth sent $5, and I thank you, Human from Earth, for sending that $5. I'm going to read, because you paid money for this. I'm going to read what you had to say, and I will give an answer. But you might not like my answer. Radex. 9-year project in the making. Willy Woo supports it. Thoughts? Well, I don't know if Willy Woo supports it or not, okay? I like Willy Woo. He's a cool dude. I don't support it. Those are my thoughts. I don't know what the heck it is. It's completely ridiculous, whatever it is. If it's some altcoin, okay? Why do we need these? Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin, dude. Well, I mean, I never heard of it. I'm assuming it is altcoin related or some nonsense related type of thing here, unless you could tell me something different. perhaps I'm wrong. You've got, as your symbol here, you've got the freaking the pyramid on the back of the dollar. So that's not leading me in a good direction right there. So, dude, I do thank you for the $5. You got me to say radix on my show. It's not going to make a difference for your project, though, dude. And if you're a bag holder, that's terrible. I mean, I feel bad for any altcoin bag holder out there. Because over the long run, Bitcoin beats them all. If you're an altcoin bag holder, turn it into Bitcoin, dudes. All right. So let's let's go to Brian. What you sent me a video here, something that you're doing down there. I linked to it below. What is this? What's going on? Tell the people.
Yeah, thanks. So the video was a link to our firm's sort of launch of our Bitcoin focus practice group. I've been working on this for a number of months with our marketing team and our leadership in our firm. My firm is a large, multi-city firm serving clients around the world, and we have a lot of expertise as a result of that. Not everyone's super Bitcoin savvy, but they all have a wide scale of legal expertise. So what I did was I realized that the Bitcoin industry has, companies and individuals that need all of these disparate areas of expertise, whether it's corporate structuring, tax, litigation services, employment services, whatever it may be. And I'm aggregating it to a team of lawyers who are interested in Bitcoin, who are Bitcoin focused, and we're going to serve the Bitcoin industry. That's our goal as a firm, is to serve all of the companies, as many companies as we can in the Bitcoin industry, and get this thing going, faster than it already is. And one aspect of that too is we have a lobbying arm, a government affairs arm that's very effective, and that is sort of what I foresee as the next challenge for the Bitcoin industry is educating the people with their hands on the levers of power, educating the regulators, because they're not always just trying to be bad people. They often are, reactive, or they don't understand it fully, and they make bad decisions. And then we have to work to undo those decisions, and it's just a lot harder. So I'm hoping that with this, we can effectively represent Bitcoin companies, on the regular legal structure side, and then also get them in the door and get in the front of the people that make the decisions and explain to them why they should be on our side, not fighting this. And that's sort of the goal.
All right. It is. Hopefully I did link to it below, and of course all these guys, what they're dealing with is all linked to below. They're pertinent links, including that April. It's the Miami Crypto Expo, April 21st to 23rd. That's what Juan Golf wanted to talk about. He has something to do with it. He's in charge or part of the management team. I don't know, marketing. So let's before we go to Jonathan here, I do want to bring up something I brought up on the past show. Russell Okung put half of his NFL salary into Bitcoin in December, and he's doing really well. And I said, I hope it inspires other NFL players to do something similar, to get into Bitcoin. Well, Saquon Barkley made an announcement that basically says that he's next. It was not directly, but he said he was going to do something with Jack Mallers or something like that. So I'm glad to see other NFL players hopefully jumping on that, turning their salary, their fiat salary, into Bitcoin. The more the merrier. So that's something I brought up on Wednesday's show, or I don't know what day it was. It was recently, and already another NFL player is copying Russell. So that's good. All right, Jonathan, what are you up to? What do you have to promote? Any stories you wanted to bring up that were not brought up today?
I'm not actively, I'm up to many things. I have my consulting practice still up. You can use it through this great site called Coinbase Connect, built with love in Montreal, here, Canada. Trying to be, I miss the in-person conferences. It's going to be a year now since, and I think it was one of the big catalysts for the industry where people would meet. I mean, it's fun to do podcasts and interviews like that. I think it's a big part of the industry, but I'm really missing the in-person conference. And in many industry, I'm involved also in traditional markets. And I think it's really missing right now because a lot of deals are made while meeting people in person. So I'm really looking forward to this series of conference. The first one in Miami, like in June. Yeah, for sure.
Are you going to come down to the June one in Miami?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Pound that like button, baby.
Well,
So many people. It is going to be the best conference ever. I mean, I was on Bitcoin Magazine. I was on their show last night, and like most of the guys are going to be there. So many of the guests that have been on this show are going to be there. I'm going to finally get to meet. I've met some dudes in person already, but I'm going to meet everybody in person now. So it is going to be. We're going to party like freaking rock stars. I think it will be the best Bitcoin conference of all time so far, because so many people will be relieved to actually be in person with other people again. Now, some of us in America have already seen other people in person, but outside, Canada, you guys haven't seen anybody in person lately. So I know BTC Benny is coming down from Canada also. Brian, are you going to come to the event in June 4th and 5th at Miami conference, the Bitcoin Magazine conference?
Yeah, we're working on it. We haven't officially decided yet, but I'm definitely going to try and get down there. It sounds like it's going to be awesome. And I've also already had the dreaded C word, so no worries there. I'm coming in with plenty of immunity, and it should be really fun.
All right, very good. Well, I think we've covered everything here. We ended a little earlier than usual today. All right, everybody. Or Brian, you have anything else to bring up?
I do not. I think that was great show, and appreciate you having me on. It's always fun to be here. It's good to be back.
Okay, excellent, dudes. All right, guys, have a great weekend, everybody out there. Remember, next Friday. Well, I'm remembering it at least. I will be back in Baltimore for the next show. It will be right before Passover, so it'll be great to be back with family. But I am right here in Miami. I shall return for the conference and everything. So what a time, what a year, what a time to be alive, guys. Golden age. Shabbat Shalom. I'm Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, Disrupt Meister. Thank you, everybody who watched live today and who's watching this taped. Follow me on Twitter at TechBalt. You get the best freaking guest in the space every Friday. See you guys real soon.